And sometimes it says it takes time, but it usually goes live immediately. So yeah, we are live. All right.
Awesome.
Um, oh, there we go. All right. We're on. We're
Awesome.
here. I'm so excited. For those of you that don't know, we are launching All Access August, which means all of August, we're going to be bringing my whole team front and center to show you guys everything we know, help you guys through some things that you're going through, give you guys some new resources, and hopefully my goal is to give you guys kind of a mid-year refresh and some fresh motivation, some fresh energy, some fresh ideas to move forward in your dog training businesses and help you get to the next level and hopefully make 2022 your best year ever, because there's no reason it can't be, despite what the media might have you believe. So I'm super excited to have you guys here. We'll be going live. I'm pretty sure it's every Wednesday, right, Brian, in August.
Yeah.
And so somebody on my team or me and somebody on their team will be giving you guys some really, really great guidance on kind of some next steps you can take in your business and some insights on things that we see and things that we can kind of help you through. And so if you haven't seen me live yet, my name is Ines McNeil. I'm the founder of the Modern Dog Trainer. Unfortunately, right now I'm struggling with a little bit of a sinus infection, but I've got antibiotics and I'm feeling so much better. So I founded the Modern Dog Trainer back in 2014 because there were just, back in the day, there were no resources online about what it was like to actually run a dog training business, like how do you run a group class? How do you run a private lesson? Those are things you kind of either just winged it or you had to learn from a mentor that you may or may not have. So I wanted to bring all of that information, all the best business practices to light on the internet so that everybody could access that kind of information and improve their business as well, whether or not they have people in person locally to teach them. So if you haven't yet, definitely check out the website. There's so many free resources, amazing articles on there, ebook, worksheets, courses, all for free, and that I've made over the years when I saw a need. And so definitely check it out. But this month, we're really focusing on what's going on right now. What are some things we can kind of guide you through and help you find your own insights as well as far as what is and isn't working for you and your business, because every business is different. And my whole team's going to help you do it. So today I have Brian here with me. He is our very own marketing guru, marketing expert. He is running our marketing as well as coaching our own students through their marketing journey. So Brian, go introduce yourself.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Ines. Man, I'm super excited about this this whole month actually, because
Yeah.
the thing that I think what I've learned about a lot of the dog trainers is, they're so busy doing classes and teaching dogs, like all the rest of it just becomes this burden. And so I'm very excited about kind of helping folks, get better at their marketing today. And then some of the other topics and some of the other folks that you have on your team are all just rock stars, and being able to really share some great information with them. My background, I've been in marketing now, immersed in digital marketing for about 11 years, and different types of projects, different companies, things like that. But I've been so excited about working with the Modern Dog Trainer just because, and you and S, just because you guys are so, you're offering something so different than anything else out there on the market. It's not just how to get more clients, because if you do that, you just break your systems and everything. So you actually
Yeah.
have this holistic approach to really give people the freedom that they're looking for from their home or from their dog training business, in a way that's going to give them time freedom, financial freedom, and all the things, and not just have
Right.
the business run them. And some of the stories that you've generated are just mind-blowing and so exciting. And so I'm really excited about being part of this team and what we're doing this month as well. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yes, yes. And that's what I'm in it for too. Like, growing up in the dog industry, like we give absolutely everything to, the animals, to helping everybody with their animals. And burnout is extremely prevalent because we forget to take care of ourselves and
Right.
do things from a sustainable way. So I wanted to, through this work, I really want to help everybody build longevity into what they're doing, and sustainability as well as profitability, because we all have bills to pay. So, and a retirement to save for, right? Come on, everybody. So, yes, all of that is super important if we want to do this long term. So, we've got some good stuff lined up. Before we dive in, though, we have to give you guys something. So let me grab that little link. We have made a really special worksheet for you guys to download, access, use throughout the month of August. So I really want to make sure you guys have the link here. Let me toss this into the comment section of the live. So download worksheet here. And this is going to be so important so that you're able to kind of consolidate your thoughts and get your thoughts down on paper, and not just take our word for it, but really think through your own obstacles, challenges, solutions, so that you can make the most of our time together here in August. And this is going to be a worksheet that you're going to print out pretty much every week, every lesson. You're just going to fill it out with some new information and some new insights as we go along. So definitely grab your copy of the worksheet. I just tossed it in the comments section of this live. If you don't see it, let us know, comment, and we'll get you the direct link to it. All right. So, all right, let's do this.
Yeah.
Let us know in the comments if you're ready to go. This week's topic, we're really going to be diving into marketing. Obviously, I love marketing because of the power it gives people to bring their ideas to the public and get their message out there beyond just obviously making sales, right? That's not just the point. We want to make sure we're able to help people through the information we're giving and providing out there and putting forward. So and Brian is really, really good at that too. So we're going to be asking you guys some questions, and we have some answers to some questions that have already been asked to us that we promised to answer today. So we have some good stuff.
Yeah, and what I like about this worksheet is it's designed not to tell people like this is the system, you go do these things. It's like it's helping people create the right system for them and their skill and their time and their situation, because there isn't any one size fits all approach to marketing. So
Right.
yes, there's some best practices and things you can do and all that kind of thing, but everybody's a little different. Some people are just great at social media, some people aren't. And so this is, I think, going to help people really find a way for themselves to excel and be able to create that steady flow of new clients coming in and all that. So I'm excited about it. It's gonna be fun.
100%. And like one of the things I always tell my students is really embrace who you are, embrace what you like doing, and
Yes.
just do more of that. And so that's why I'm excited to be able to ask you guys some questions today and help you think about what's best for you. There's definitely best practices, but there's different ways to implement them that are going to be better suited for you versus somebody else. So take us from there, Brian.
All right, awesome. So if you've downloaded the worksheet, awesome. If you haven't, and you want to, some reason that's not working for you, just grab a clean sheet of paper and we'll kind of walk you through the whole process so you can transfer it over later. Every week you can print out one of these worksheets, and by the end of the month, you pretty much have a business plan actually, which is kind of cool. So the first big question we want to ask, actually the topic of this week, of course, is marketing, but the first big question we want to ask folks is, let me pull up my sheet here. Sorry, thought I had it right there. Okay, how do you get new clients? Pretty simple question, but I think it's an important one because a lot of times people, they just at the beginning they get the word out or whatever, people start coming, but they at some point you've got to be very intentional with how you go out and get new clients. So take a couple of seconds and just write down what is your system, your plan, your strategy for getting new clients. and should be on the worksheet, there's a little box there you can fill that in.
Yes, yes. And the reason we bring this up is because, like, we see our students go through this particular struggle, like if you've ever felt like helpless about like where to find your new client. I know when I was first getting started, I would spend time volunteering at the shelter, teaching free classes. I used Thumbtack a little bit. I used Groupon. I used some Google ads. Is there anything I didn't do? I placed the ad in the local directory that called me up. Like I did all the things that you probably have done as well. And some of the things we see are that, those things are not necessarily efficient or productive, even though we want them to be. So let us, write down what are some things you're doing to get new clients.
And I think you've mentioned this too, Ines, that a lot
Mhm.
of people are almost feeling helpless,
Yeah.
because they don't have that proven plan for themselves that's going to work, and they're just kind of like doing all the things. And we get this in the comments all the time about, I don't know what to say in a Facebook group, or I don't know what
Yeah.
to do over here. And so the goals of today is to give people something they could do today to get one
Mhm.
new client, and then also
Yeah.
kind of more of a long-term plan as well. So we'll get to some solutions here in a minute, but we want to kind of talk about where you're at
Yes.
right now in your strategy for getting new clients. So
Yes. I'm so excited to get into those.
yeah.
But yeah, write down what you're currently doing
Right,
to
right.
get started. Awesome.
All right. Number two, how much time do you spend each day marketing your business?
Mm,
And
a
I
good one.
think this is my guess is that the more successful trainers are probably doing something every single day.
Hmm.
Marketing is so much about consistency. Even if your message isn't perfect or something's not 100% perfect, if it's consistent, you're going to get a response. And so I'm guessing that the more successful trainers are very consistent, even if it's just a little bit every day. And the rest of the trainers are probably like, they put all day in one day, and then they're nothing for a couple days, and they're totally like,
Right.
whatever. So
Yeah. Yeah. And that's so important. And consistency, one of the things I see that can kind of stop consistency is fear, fear of talking to people.
right.
It's a big one. Fear of
Yeah,
putting yourself out there, really being unsure if you're doing something right. Um, that can really block people from showing up consistently. So,
right.
um, yeah.
And I think the goal of this question is to get people to add up all the things that you do in a marketing sense, whether
Mm.
that's having conversations in Facebook groups, or making posts on Instagram, or and are you doing multiple different social media channels, and how much, literally add up the amount of time you're doing for that. And then things
Yeah.
that might be outside of social media too, like all the other types of marketing that are out there. What are all the things that you're doing to get new clients, and how much time is that taking?
Mm, yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it can be a
I
huge huge time suck for sure. So
It definitely can be. Mm, just thinking back to when I was getting started.
yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
And I think when you do get started, like, that's the one thing you've got to do a lot of is get the word out there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's no shortcuts necessarily, but as you get better and more established and more well known, you get some residual benefit from that, of course, but you still have to be consistent. You still have to go out there and do something every day, I think. And um,
Yeah.
at the beginning of any business is going to be pretty time intensive on that part of it. So
Yes. Yes. Nobody knows about you. But I also think, when you're first getting started, that's also when you're most like insecure about what you're doing. But at the same
right.
time, that's when you have to be like the loudest about,
Right.
what you're offering. And so it's super,
Yeah.
scary.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And the last question we have here is, are you generating a steady and predictable flow of new clients?
Mm.
pretty kind of a yes or no question, but
Yeah.
there might be times when you do, and it might be times when you don't. Like the idea
Yeah.
here is to kind of figure out, eventually figure out what works for you, and
Right.
what can you do every day to kind of get that flow going.
And one of the things that kind of comes up for me is if you do have by some chance a steady and predictable flow of new clients, but you're essentially 100% relying on referrals for that,
Mm,
right? Like
right,
you're not necessarily generating those yourself. You're really relying on other people's generosity, which is fabulous,
right,
but that could stop at any given moment for a variety of reasons. Or if you ever want to move, if you don't have a system to actually do that generation yourself, then you're kind of stuck and you're starting from
great point.
scratch. So um I know a lot of people are moving right now.
Yeah, I saw that in the group. There was like 3 or 4 different trainers that were moving
Oh
all
my
across
goodness.
the country or someplace, and
Yes,
wow,
yes. So, if you're not the one generating a steady and predictable flow of new clients, then you're kind of backed up in a corner and at other people's mercy. And
right,
that's not where I like to be, but
yeah.
yeah, we're gonna
No,
think
that's
about
a
that.
great point, because that isn't something that somebody actually kind of controls. That happens, of course, when you provide great service, but it's
Yeah,
it's more like it's not predictable necessarily. It
yeah,
might be right now steady, but it might not be predictable. So
right.
um, that's awesome. That's a great point.
Mm,
Cool. All right,
good
you want
stuff.
to jump into some solutions?
Yeah. So, short-term solution, let's look at what we could do like today, right now,
Right.
this week to generate one new client. So in that worksheet, hopefully you've grabbed it already from the site. Write down, what is one or more, you could go like 2, 3, 4, 5, thing that you could do today to get one new client. And think about what comes to mind, jot that down before we give you all the answers. Write down what comes to mind for you and what feels good for your business, for who you are as a person as well. That's important as far as like you always want to start from that point of really understanding what feels good to you first.
And while people are maybe writing those down, put down some ideas. I know in our outline we had some of the common mistakes that
Hmm.
folks might be making, that
Yes.
may actually either hurt your marketing, efforts, or add time to your marketing day, or even,
Yeah.
just does not work at all. So
Right.
and one of them you put in here was you're talking dog trainer speak in your marketing content. I love
Yes.
that. It's so easy to do, just talk like that all day long, but
It really, yeah, it becomes like a second language for us. And one of the things I love about having you on the team is you are essentially our student's ideal client.
mhm,
So if you can't understand what they're saying in their marketing, then it means their clients can't understand either. So,
right,
you've invested in your dogs, you've invested in training. You, as a normal dog owner, want certain things from that experience, and
yes,
now you're able to teach our students directly. Like they have access to, an ideal client right there in our coaching time. But yeah, for us trainers, like it's so easy to dive into dog trainer speak and just start talking about um it can be just so hard to relate to the average dog owner because we've been immersed in this world for so long and it's just
right,
like second nature to us. A lot of people like just grew up like really understanding dogs. And we love getting really nerdy about the science.
right.
So it just slips out all the time. Yep.
Yeah, and I think, even little terms,
Hmm.
like like dominant, like
Yeah.
or R plus, those are
Yeah.
common things that the dog trainers say, but as a consumer, I don't know what that means. I mean, I
Right.
kind of understand what dominant would mean, but it's not something I would really. I mean, I know we don't do that, but it's like that. Like, how does that work? I don't like. To me,
Yeah.
it creates questions, not answers. And I
Mm,
think it's if a trainer can really like dumb down their conversation to my level as a
yeah,
consumer who doesn't know really anything about different types of training, different styles, all the
yeah,
different things. And I think that it's actually a great way for trainers to separate themselves from the masses is to educate the ignorant consumer um, about what's possible and what's available.
exactly, exactly. One of my favorite things to do is go through. Um, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Reddit, but there is a certain are they called channels subcategory called "Explained Like I'm Five," and people go there to ask, what are seemingly dumb questions, but they really just want to know like what's happening, or sometimes it's a more complicated situation, like war, or a societal issue that they don't understand, and so they go to this channel and they say, please explain like I'm 5 years old. What is
Right.
happening here? Like, why is it like this? What does this mean? All those things. And so I think that we should really be applying that to the way we articulate dog training services, so that everybody can really understand like what we're here for, how we help, really how we're going to impact people's lives. And so if you can explain it to a 5 year old, then every adult you're going to come across is really going to understand what you're trying
Yes.
to say too.
Yes. And I think the other um, tactic a lot of sales folks use is the 30-second elevator pitch. Being able to
Right.
say what you do in 30 seconds to a 5-year-old. It would be
Yeah.
great, because like that would be like then because you come into contact with people all the time and you've got literally 30 seconds with them, maybe at a grocery store line or something like that. And
Yeah.
they may ask, they see your treat bag or something on your you forgot
Right.
to take off, like, hey, what do you do?
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and then that's in fact probably a great thing just to do is to wear
Go walk
something
around the
like,
store with the treat
yeah,
bags.
totally,
Yeah.
and because there are people out there looking for dog trainers, and I think one of a couple of the comments that we had in like mistakes people make were, being worried about what other people think, and then
Right.
also playing small and not
Yeah.
just shouting it from the rooftops. Um, and I think when people start to understand that there's an audience for every trainer.
Yeah.
There's enough clients to go around. I think some of
Oh
the
yeah.
stats that are coming out right now are mind blowing. Like
Yeah.
something like 70% of all the households in the United States have a pet, and
Yeah.
70% of those are dogs. And
Yeah.
so there's plenty of clients for everybody. So finding your audience, I think, is of the ideal people is really going to be important.
Yeah. Exactly. Um, and on that note, like being worried what others think, another way that shows up is being scared to put things online because you're friends
Right.
with other trainers or your mentor, and you're really worried about what they're going to think about what you're posting. Um, that is so common, to be worried about what other trainers are going to think. Like, what if you say one thing wrong? It's gonna like a dog pile on
Right.
your
Right.
dog. Um, and the reality is that those people that you look up to in the industry are very clear and consistent and vocal about their beliefs and about who they're here to help, how they're able to help. And you also have to embody that as a business owner for your own community. You have to build that up for your own community. So yes, it's going to be scary. Yeah, there may be negative comments, but the people that leave negative comments are not usually your clients that are ready and able and willing to pay for your services. So really their opinions don't matter. I don't want other people's opinions to ever hinder you from showing up and helping people that really do need your help, you know?
Right. Totally true. If several people have joined the thing now, the
Yes.
presentation, if maybe somebody can drop in the chat or in the comments below the live, um, what's one thing that you personally could do
Mm, yeah.
today or the next few days to get one new client? Like what's something that if you did this, the one little thing, you would get a new client. Um, Maybe you've got a list of people that you need to follow up with that you haven't done that for whatever the reason. Um, Scared of people saying no, or maybe you don't know what to say,
Yes.
or whatever, but you've got this list. It's time to make those phone calls or something. Then what is the thing you could do? Or maybe you've got some other action that you could take today that would get you that one new customer. And if you
Yes.
could maybe drop that in our chat, I'd love to hear some of the answers for that question.
Yeah, I'd love to see what you guys are going to be busy up to later. Awesome.
Cool. What are some of the things, Ness, that you did at the beginning that were pretty much guaranteed? Like, was there anything that you did that you knew if you just did this thing, you were going to get a new client quickly?
Oh,
Like it would, if you did it
yeah.
today, and maybe it was a result of, a few weeks
I
of something else, but
Yes, I I was really into like the long-term strategy. I was real technical in utilizing SEO. And actually when I moved from Austin, Texas to Buffalo, New York, I started working on SEO like 4 months ahead of time because I knew that move was coming.
so
And
smart.
um yeah, and then actually literally the first week I had my, boots on the ground here in New York, I was getting phone calls on from potential clients. So
Wow.
but that is such a long-term strategy, and there's a reason I don't teach that. It's because it's so technical. You have to know what
Right.
you're doing, how you're writing, words you're targeting.
Right.
It's so much more technical than what we usually do with social media, which can be really like same day, same week kind of
Right.
turnaround. So
But I
yeah.
love that though, because that was really like, those are some strengths you have.
Yes.
And like that, you played straight to your strengths. And for those that don't know, SEO is
Right.
search engine optimization. And
Yes.
speaking of the lingo, but it's like, some people do have that technical skill, and that it's easy for them, it's simple for them.
Yeah.
Um, other folks aren't that way, but you finding something that worked for you is a great
Yeah.
example,
Right.
for sure. No, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Uh,
it just takes a few months to actually see
right,
the return, right?
right,
So
right,
it's not
right,
the first method we teach, but it is
right.
included in the bonuses
Yes,
when you
that's
have some
true.
time.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
So some of the things that I've, what I've seen in a lot of the trainers doing is getting into groups and posting comments, or, either uh,
Yeah.
not necessarily starting like a thread, but posting a comment in a thread that was kind of interesting and created response. So
Hmm.
that was one thing that I saw that some folks had been doing. um,
Yes.
and it didn't matter. It was, what was great about it is, if you assume that, let's say 60% of the population in the United States has a dog,
Hmm.
then pretty much 60% of any topic group out there is going to have
Right.
a dog, right? They may not be there for dog training, but that might be something they're thinking about. So
Yep.
um, being able to tie, bring value to that group, and then tie some kind of um, connection to what you do might be an
Yes.
interesting way to get some new clients going.
Absolutely, and just making sure that you have like a natural conversation, right? Like
Yeah,
a genuine conversation instead of just like going into groups and just posting about your like class schedule or the fact that you're open for business. Like that's not going to drive
right,
interest or really like engagement.
right.
So yeah, that's a great
No,
point.
that's cool. Now I know this is a big part of what the academy teaches, like in the clicks
Yeah.
to clients program and everything, is how to really use social media effectively and efficiently, so you're not
Yes.
spending hours on there every day and all that. But I love
Yes.
that, that simple thing that you could be doing every single day is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jessica Berg just posted, I run classes at a local pet store. I need to create an easy brochure for their staff to hand out to people
I
that
love that.
inquire about training classes, basically dates and times of upcoming sessions.
I
That's
love
awesome.
that, Jessica.
Yeah.
She's one of our rock star students.
Awesome. That's so cool.
Jessica, just to add on to that, instead of putting the dates on your handout, have like a QR code that sends people to the updated dates, right? Because
Oh,
that's going
that's
to
so smart.
change every month, every quarter, instead of having to reprint flyers. Or I like the little postcard because those are kind of easier to handle.
Right.
Having a QR code to send people to not only what dates are coming up, but like how to register, who you are, get them prepped for that stuff. She goes, brilliant. Yeah, so many people are using QR codes. I know when they first
Yeah.
came out, it was kind of like a taboo because you really never knew what site you were going to end up on, right? Like if you saw a random QR code at like a coffee shop, the flyer might say one thing, but you don't really know if it's like somebody trying to hack your stuff. So, but now with COVID, with everything being touch free, it's so popular. I even go to restaurants that like the whole menu's just on my phone. Sort of annoying, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Because things are changing quickly too, right? The
Right.
menu is changing based off of pricing and what's available. But anyways,
I have a friend that runs a staging company. So like when somebody wants to sell their home, they bring him in to put new furniture in and make it look beautiful and gorgeous.
yes,
And that. And he had the back of his polo shirt is a huge QR code.
I love it.
Like people literally will be behind him in the store, the grocery store, the coffee shop, or something like that. And they're like taking a picture of his shirt because he
Yeah.
doesn't have anything else there. It's just like the QR code and the
So
curiosity.
people are curious.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And I saw that on the Super Bowl ad too. They just had that QR code bouncing around the screen, and people were like
Yes.
chasing it around. I can't remember the numbers, but it
Gosh.
was massive
Yeah.
results from that. So
Yeah, that's
yeah,
true. They're even on TV now. I mean,
right.
everybody is just throwing caution to the wind and
No,
embracing.
exactly. That's great. Okay, Jess, that's a
Yep.
brilliant point. I can make. Yeah, perfect. So,
Yes.
okay, I do a large logo on the back of my hoodies, but that's a unique idea. Yeah, I mean, it's something to try.
Yes.
And who knows? It may work. You never know. So, all those little things add up. So cool.
Yeah.
All right. Next question is the long term. How could you delegate this task to a team member? I think this is like scares some people. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. It's. I mean, the thing with getting to the point where you can delegate some of this stuff, which I know is a big part of your academy, but also the CET program,
Yes.
the Chief Executive Trainer program. Here I go speaking the lingo now.
I know.
Um,
It's so easy to do.
I know, totally. But the being able to kind of standardize your daily routine enough where you could pass it on to somebody else. And what I love about that is like, there's people out there that are just, you might have somebody on your team that's so good at social media. They know how to take great pictures and, just have the right words and just really make it engaging. My daughter's that way. She's just a natural at it. And, it's like, what has to go into from where you are today, could you pass it on to somebody else? And
Right.
probably a lot of trainers saying, no, it's my voice, it's this, it's that. But how can you get to that place? And I know, Ines, you've taught a ton of people how to do that. So
Yes. And that's why really being clear on what that strategy is super important. And everything from like having templates to like documented strategy is all going to help you get to that point. But I know it's hard to think that way when you're thinking of just getting the next new client, but we want to plant that seed now, because ultimately you get so busy that you need to hire an assistant, right? And then they can take that kind of admin stuff off your plate as quickly as possible. You can always be involved in the general messaging, like the vision for what you want to have happen, but you can hand out the tedious like day-to-day management of it to somebody else pretty quickly once you see some traction. So definitely a good thing to talk about.
yeah. And one thing I've seen a lot of folks do is sort of do social media in batches. So you could do a week's worth of posts. I know in our for the modern dog trainer, we have a daily schedule for each week, and we're trying to hit a certain type of post every week or every day of each week, and that kind of thing, and kind of giving the foundation and the structure to it. And then like some people do, a photo shoot, for example, and get 500 new photos, and then they can
Right.
batch those out over time. And, so it's a lot more efficient to do multiple posts at one and schedule them out than it is to do a fresh one start from scratch every single time. So,
Yeah. Yeah. If you can really block off that time and think through, what you want to say for like that week,
right,
then you only have to think about that once a week instead of every day.
right, right.
So yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Um, Yeah. So let's see. I mean, if anybody has any questions of any kind of around marketing, please feel free to drop those
Yeah.
in the chat or in the comments. And thank you, Jessica, for yours has been really good. I know this particular event came up fairly quickly, so probably not a ton of people are aware of it yet, but we'll get lots of questions on the replay for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
Okay, so some of the questions that we've taken from students and other places around this topic, what kind of wording draws in the people you want to work with?
Mm,
And one of the things that you put in this answer, Anessa, which I thought was really, really great, was look at the brands that they buy from.
yeah.
And getting to know your customer, your ideal client, is a big part of what we do in the academy, is helping people really create that avatar of who they want to work with. I mean,
Right.
I know at the beginning a lot of times we take every customer we can get just because we need to, right?
Yeah.
But like some of them we really love working with, and what if all your customers were like that, all your clients were like that?
Yeah.
So once you start to know your client, what kind of products do they use and brands do they buy from, and how do those big brands, the million and billion dollar brands, speak to those same people? And you could, kind of swipe some of that language from them. I think that was a great
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, you can look at, what kind of language those brands are using, what kind of values those brands have. Are they green? Are they donating to a certain cause? Like
Right.
those things are things you want to pay attention to, because those are going to be the same values that your ideal clients are going to have and you want to include in your messaging. Um, Also, a lot of the common, like some words you can use to really level up the kind of people you're attracting are using words like premium, VIP, exclusive, elite, and really letting people know that you are the best, right? You are a premium dog trainer, like you are the best person they can hire. And that's really what it comes down to. And the reason I say that is because you are. All of our students are absolutely amazing trainers. They go way above and beyond what like a normal service provider would normally do. They're usually available like 24/7. They do texting and calling and like emailing, like any way you want support, I'll do it. Um, they usually have like Facebook groups. Like you guys really go above and beyond. And so you get to call yourself the best because you do everything you can to support your clients through that training journey. And that means that you're really doing more than the average person would. So allow yourself to see yourself in that way. And then to circle back to like, why would you want to iron out what an ideal client is in the first place? I think that's something that like people are like, well, I just, I want to work with people that own dogs. That sounds good to me.
Right.
And the reason is that like not all people are great to work with. And, each trainer is going to resonate with different kinds of people. And I think it's important to narrow down who it is you're speaking to. It makes it really easy to know what you should write every week with your marketing. And it makes it so that you don't start resenting your clients. Like you don't start dragging your feet to respond to them or hiding from them or,
Right.
like being mad at them. Because that kind of stuff, not only is being over busy, can that drive out burnout, but also really not liking who you're working with every day can really be detrimental to somebody's enthusiasm for their work. So
Right.
something to think about.
No, absolutely. And I think, I know some of the trainers that you work with are they specialize in something. So they specialize in,
Yeah.
dogs that are aggressive, for example. I know there's one trainer that you work with that focuses on aggressive dogs where other trainers are not equipped to handle those guys, those dogs. And,
Yeah.
that's going to be a very, different kind of situation and client than probably most, right? So
Mhm.
most maybe have an annoying habit or something that they want to kind of train out of the dog. But if it's a dangerous thing, that's a very different thing.
Exactly. Yeah, we have trainers that specialize in puppies, which I was just having this conversation with one of our new students. She was saying, she was considering specializing in puppies, even though she really loves rescue dogs because, people kind of sometimes perceive puppies as like, the thing that beginners should start with. When in reality, there's a lot of people, a lot of trainers that would actually look at puppies as something that you don't want to mess up, right?
Yeah.
It's not a blank slate, but there's a lot of ways you can actually mess up puppies if you don't do their training right. And so it's not necessarily a good place for beginner trainers to start. Just because they're young dogs doesn't mean that you're formatting their brain for the rest of their lives. Like it's a little intense if you think about it.
Right. Right.
So, you know, don't feel like you have to put yourself in to doing something because you think that's what you should do. You really want to embrace the types of clients that you love working with, that you're good at working with, that you want to get better at working with, and go from there.
That's great. One of the long-term solutions also was about finding a really great way to explain, force-free training, or your method of training.
Yeah,
Uh, and I think this is such a huge opportunity, because,
yeah,
as a potential client and a consumer of the service, like if somebody had said to me, here's the difference, or
right,
here's the style and why it's so great, and this is the end result you're going to get, it's this bond with your dog that's going to be based on, you know positive things, not
right,
me, being stronger than my dog or being the alpha dog
right,
in the pack or whatever. Like, it's like,
right.
like that's such a beautiful thing. And
It's such a
my
benefit.
yeah, my dog's gonna live what, 10, 15 years. And so, like, it's not a small commitment. Like, the value there is like, it's a long period of my life. So,
Yeah.
um, I really like that because I think there's a huge opportunity for trainers to educate their consumer that way. But how are some of the ways that you would do that, um,
Mm,
maybe on a web page or in a social media post, and, like,
yeah.
that kind of thing? Like, what's some of the wording you would use, and how would you go about, like, explaining that to a consumer?
Oh, that's so good. And oftentimes trainers try to do that, but they get too much into the weeds and the
Right.
science of it.
Right.
Um, where really what matters to the dog owner is the relationship they're going to end up with. One of the ways I really like to polarize it and really make it a black and white situation is, one way you can be in competition with your dog every day for the rest of their life, right? You can
True.
always think they're out to get you. You can always worry if like you're being strong enough or, like authoritative enough and have that kind of relationship. Or you guys can really just have fun together and you each both get what you want out of it, right? You each have a really joyful relationship. You get to have fun throughout the training process and later just living together. You really understand what your dog needs and he understands what you need. And it's a two-way conversation instead of just a my way or the highway situation. And so really articulating in a way that like the average 5-year-old or human is going to understand instead of getting into like the psychology or like I don't know. Sometimes people really get into like the mental health of the dog and like the hormones and stress and all of that. Those things are important, but ultimately your buyer, the person that's going to hire you, that's not what's going to impact them on a day-to-day basis. They need to
Right.
know like how it's going to impact their living together with this animal for 10, 15 years. So
Right.
it's a great way to kind of articulate that.
No, I love that. That's awesome. And I think from a marketing perspective, if you can take that messaging
Mhm.
and then make sure that's permeated in everything, and it's easy
Yeah,
as you do your marketing to kind of be focused on the new stuff, and what's different and what's new and what's going on this minute, and forget that core piece of your brand in a sense.
hmm
um, that it really has to, because if I'm a new person looking, like let's say I just go get a dog and now all of a sudden I'm potentially a client, my need for dog training has just radically changed. So now when I land on somebody's website or social media post or something, my the probability of me becoming a client is much higher. And so now everything I'm looking at that they've done is new to me. Right? It may
hmm
not be new to them, and they may be bored of it, but to me it's brand new. And it's like, whoa, that's totally cool. I love that idea.
yeah,
Let me contact this person. So I think one thing I see a lot of times is people kind of forgetting their core message
mm,
and their core brand, and off doing things they think are going to be working on a maybe it's a trend on social media or something like that, and they're doing that, but they've kind of gotten away from um, that core message of what it is to be a positive reinforcement.
totally, totally. Yeah, I would always assume that nobody has ever heard of you or seen
Right.
you or heard of dog training ever before.
Always talk to the new person.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep. Yep. No,
love
that's
it.
great. That's great. All right. Let's see if we've got a couple more here. Let's see. It's a little different topic.
Michelle asked a question. She said, obviously, you can watch something and try to figure it out, but when you're not knowing the ins and outs, it becomes more difficult and frustrating when some things may not go right. How to convey that is important. Is there a best way to do that? Um, let's see, maybe that's a follow up. So, a lot of people say I'll do training at home through ways they know or through YouTube videos. I guess, Michelle, I'm sorry, I'm not really understanding the question. Are you saying like how to articulate the benefits of training with a professional versus kind of DIY? Is that kind of the question? I think it depends. There's two types of people. I think there's people that want to DIY and take their time and learn as they go, and there's people that are like, no, I'm ready to move on. Like
Right.
let's implement the solution like tomorrow and quit, dabbling.
Right.
So, it kind of speaks to like who is it that you're attracting? Again, getting clear on who that ideal client is really going to help you with what kind of points you need to be making in your marketing.
Oh, that's great.
Mm,
We
good
also
question.
had in here, and this may be kind of semi-related, is how to pick your niche.
Yeah.
Uh, we've talked a little bit about that, but
hmm
I think a lot of trainers and a lot of business people in general, like they get into a business and they don't think about that. Like they don't want to limit what their opportunity, but in a lot of ways it expands their opportunity to be truly the
Yes.
expert in a certain niche. Um, how would you how would you go about like picking that?
Um, Usually what I walk my students through is what is it that you like doing? If you like rescue dogs, embrace it. Like that's just
Right.
what it is. You're going to get better at it as you go. And then two, what do your clients need? Those ideal clients that you love working with, that you love talking to, engaging with. It's not just about the dog, but like really the person. What are their values? What do they like doing? And that kind of thing. And when you get clear, and everybody's so resistant to doing this, but when you get clear on who it is you're speaking to, like really have that one person in mind, that one persona, it makes it so easy to come up with what to say. Like you're no longer talking to all of these possible people that may be reading your material. You're speaking to that one person. And it doesn't mean nobody else is going to relate to that. It just means that one person is really going to be like, is she in my brain? I've
Right.
had students tell me that.
Right.
Is she reading my mind? No, it just means that I'm really speaking to you and other people just like you. And so when you can get really clear on that, it makes it really easy to know like what you should be talking about and what to say in your marketing and what to sell and how to sell it. It answers all of the following questions, right, that usually come up.
I love that. I love it. And that, you know, again, that once you've done that, now you've got a more clear message that you can, like you said, you can take that out to the world, and doesn't, you know, it could be any type of topic group or anything like that, or anybody out there, because the need of that person is going to be, you know, very similar. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. Cool. All right. Let's see how we're doing on time.
I know, this is a good one.
So,
We're really taking a deep dive.
yeah.
If you're just hopping on, get the worksheet that's in the
yeah.
in the chat, in the
If
comments.
you're on here, like, is this helpful? Like, you know, we didn't want to just come on and tell people what to do. We really wanted to
Yeah.
kind of open people's minds to what is marketing, and what are some of the things that each individual could do in their situation, you know, whether a brand new trainer or super successful trainer already. Those situations are going to be a little different, and we want people to kind of design their own system and own that system, rather than us just telling them what to do. So hopefully
Yeah.
this is kind of the result we're ended up with, and I hope hopefully somebody can chime in and let us know what they're thinking. The last question we have is, what is stopping you from solving this problem today?
Mm,
And
yeah.
so, you know, the idea being, okay, like, if money was no object, or maybe that's the thing, you know, who knows, but like, what would it take to solve this problem, and so that you had a steady and predictable flow of new clients coming in every day, of ideal clients that you loved. What is the thing that you feel is stopping you from making that happen? And if anybody's brave enough to share that, I'd love to see some of the ideas. Maybe they could share in the chat or something. Um,
Yeah.
what have you experienced in this? Is like, what do people say to you when you give them all these great answers, and they say, well, I'd love to do that, but what
They're
is the,
scared.
yeah.
It is scary. You know, I grew up with the parents that told me to basically never put anything on the internet. They're all out to get you, and somebody's going to hunt you down. You know,
Right,
like
right.
the internet was very much like a foreign place that you did not want to ever put anything you know, personal or public, like, out there ever. So to then be a business owner and have to be the face of your business, and you know, be the one that is your own loudest advocate, because nobody else is going to do it for you,
Right.
is terrifying. And so if you aren't aware of those fears, or you let those fears kind of distract you with like productive procrastination, um, you know, all these other fun things you could do that would
Yeah.
allow you to be productive but still hide behind the back end of your business, um, you know, you really want to be careful that that's not happening, that you really are the loudest advocate for the work you're here to do, the message you want to share with dog owners about what's possible for them and their dog, because gosh, we need you. There's never been more dog owners. With the pandemic, everybody got a dog, and you know, people are starting to get back out in public and um, adopting more dogs, and it's just, we need more trainers, and we need talented trainers to feel confident about what they're here to do, and share that with their community so that they can be seen and hired, right? It's not just about getting hired. Just the general message is important too.
Yeah. Well, I love that about the mission of the modern dog trainer, is that,
Yeah.
you know, you believe that by helping positive reinforcement trainers succeed in their business,
Yeah.
that's one of the fastest ways we could move this whole positive reinforcement methodology out to the masses.
Yeah.
It really is sort of an educational process, and having a bunch of successful trainers out there is obviously going to move much faster than, you know, trying to, you know, have a Facebook group and, I don't know, something, you know, some other
Yeah.
marketing, you know. So I love that concept.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. For every trainer, the way I see it, for every trainer I'm able to help with their business, you know, they're going to be able to help more people with their dogs. And so essentially the more dogs will benefit
Right.
from each person that I'm able to help. Because if you are a fabulous trainer, but you're not running your business in a way that's sustainable, so you burn out and you stop helping people, or
Right.
you just aren't able to get clients because nobody knows about you, then it doesn't matter what you know as a trainer and what you know about how to train dogs if you're not helping other people. So that's my mission, is to really level up this industry by helping you guys with your businesses.
Yeah. And it's obviously working. You've got some amazing success stories of people are just doing things that they just
It's
can't
amazing.
really, and how quickly it happens. I love
Yeah.
hearing these stories of people that were struggling in some way in their business. They were, making $2,000 every 6 months or something. And a recent story was just exactly that. And
Yeah.
then they went through the academy, which, they couldn't afford it. They didn't know what to expect. And then all like within a couple of months, like
Yeah.
a few
Whoosh.
weeks. Yeah, like a few weeks, now all of a sudden they're making $6,000, $10,000 a month. And
Yes.
and it's easier than it was before. Like it's not even like they're just working
Right.
more. It's like they're doing the right things every single day. They're doing the right little thing in marketing. They're doing the right little thing in their client communications. They've built an amazing program that their ideal client loves. They're doing all the things, and it's way less effort than they ever experienced or ever thought it would be. It's like, it's just so
Yeah.
shocking,
You stop flailing around trying to do all the things because
right,
you know exactly what to do every day within
right,
a certain,
right,
number of hours. Yeah.
right. Oh, that's so great,
Oh,
so
yeah.
great. Well, I'm not seeing any new questions coming through, but my Facebook is.
Yeah. I think we covered so much material today. It's
We did.
amazing.
Well, hopefully people can write down some of this stuff and process it and kind of start coming up with some ideas. And then we wanted to point them just a couple of resources before we
Yes.
close up today.
Toss those in there.
Yeah, and the blog being one of the best free resources out there, I think is way underutilized.
Yeah.
I've learned so much about you and your customers and your clients and this company and like training, like all the things, just by me going in there. And there's a great little search bar up there. You can search and
Right.
all these great posts come up. And if you just search marketing, you'll find a ton of awesome ideas about messaging, finding your ideal, some of the things we talked about today, but then quite a bit of other stuff too. So make sure that folks are using, and I love that particular post that you dropped in there.
Yeah.
So it's, so much good stuff. And, you know, like marketing can feel outdated at times. Like I know this post talks about Yelp and some other stuff, which is still valid. It's still something that's out there, the Google business pages, things like that. But if you apply the concepts, which is what I love about your content, it's timeless, really. The platform may change, but the content training that you've dropped in there it's priceless and it's timeless. So use that blog for sure. And then the other one we wanted to talk about was the programs page on the Modern Dog Trainer. Go to the main website, moderndogtrainer.net. You'll find a place to opt in if you're not already opted in there, but for email communication, stuff like that. But there's also a programs button, and the two kind of flagship programs that you have are the Academy and the Chief Executive Trainer program. Totally different types of people, different places. Well, maybe similar types of people, just very different places in their business, right?
Right.
So for the people that are going from $0 to $10,000 a month or $8,000, $100,000 a year, that kind of thing, where they're somewhere in there, maybe they've run into an obstacle and they feel stuck. The Academy is the right program for them. Yeah,
exactly. And I'm just like on such a high right now. We have so many incredible Academy students that are upgrading to the Chief Executive Trainer program, because they have reached that level. They've reached their six figures. They're now looking at hiring and expanding and scaling their businesses. And it is amazing. Like we had Maddie just upgraded. She moved to Montana 1 year ago. She joined the Academy just before her move because she wanted to be able to hit the ground running in Montana. And she did. She's at six figures now, and she's just upgraded and joined our chief executive trainer program because she's now looking at hiring other people to help her scale her dog training business. So to be able to help people grow that quickly, like within 12 months, she's already, looking at hiring, and
Wow.
it's just amazing to be able to be there for her every step of the way and support her through that journey. And she was actually voted number 1 dog trainer in Montana.
Wow.
So let's do that for all the other states, shall we?
I think there's one of the other trainers you worked with who went through the academy. She was voted #1 or #2 trainer in Nevada.
Yes.
So I saw that on her website the other day. I'm like, that's so cool, And,
Yeah.
she's not like a really experienced trainer either. She's
Right.
fairly new, but she's already just really
Nailed the marketing.
man, she's done that, and she's got a great response from her clients, and they're super happy with her. And they're out there telling the world, and
Yes.
fantastic. So such a great thing.
Exactly.
So yeah, so I guess anybody who's maybe in that range where they're making a few $1,000s a month at part-time, maybe your income's super sporadic.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest things I've seen as well, is where people, even if they're not making $10,000 right away, they're all of a sudden their income's stable at $4,000 or $5,000 a month, and maybe they're working very part-time. It might be
Right.
mom with 3 kids, and this is like a very part-time business, but now they're making way more money than they thought they would on a very much smaller time frame.
Yes.
And then the ones that want to go big are really accelerating through that, and they're building this foundation that they can scale. Like, it's going to grow,
Right?
not crash the foundation. So that's what I love about your stuff. It's just so all encompassing, and not just get more clients. And man, when you do that and you're broken, it gets crazy very quick.
We help you make sure not only can you get new clients, so you can actually handle those clients
Right.
when they come knocking.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then the CET, the Chief Executive Trainer Program, that is just mind blowing what people are doing there. I mean, that's a whole nother level, and really this, being able to hire not just assistant help, but like new trainers to help expand your offering, and then oh my gosh, how powerful is that to have a team of kick butt trainers that are on board with your methodology, and what kind of freedom would that provide? Man, be amazing.
Yeah, I mean, so many of them are going from like, no time off ever, or juggling. I had one student last year. I think she took like a week off, and she came back to like 90 inquiries, or 90 people on her wait list, like waiting to work with her, just like total overwhelm, like not another day off in sight for a long time. And 12 months later, I just caught up with her like last week. She took, I think, all of June off, and
that's awesome.
She came back, worked a couple of weeks, and now she's going to be on a 2-week trip to a beach house. I mean, it's amazing, really, what's possible with this work. So,
I heard one of your other students, they've scheduled in a 1 week off per month.
Yes.
Which is fantastic. Like, such a great idea, just to recharge and get excited and come back in and hit it hard for a few weeks. But then you've always got that, that relief in sight, so it's really cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. Anything else we need to touch on before we close this up?
No, we have talked about the blog post. Really good tips in there. And I really highlight some of the mistakes I see a lot of people making. Definitely grab the worksheet that goes along with All Access August. You'll be able to just print that out each week and fill it out with some of the questions that we're going to be asking you guys to kind of think through. Really help you change your mindset from like, all the to-dos to really like CEO level thinking, like the big picture questions that you need to be asking yourself about your business. And then next week, we have Coach Megan, who has gone through the academy herself and runs her own 6-figure business in Colorado and coaches our students. She's really, really amazing, really great at teaching people about how to better communicate with their clients so they get more compliance, more effective training completed, and happier clients along the journey. So she'll be going live, I think, same time next week. So Wednesday at 11 Eastern.
Yep.
So that'll be really, really good if you're wanting to get clients, more cooperative, more consistent, more compliant. She's going to have some really good stuff to talk through.
Yeah, I love
There
her
she is.
story. Yeah, I love her story too. She's just done such an amazing job, following your direction, moving,
Yeah.
growing her business and be able to, thrive during the whole COVID thing and like really, pivot her business to the point where, it didn't matter what was going on in the world. She had a clientele and a way to teach people and now she's got other trainers and she's got a studio and like just doing some amazing things and as well as having free time for her family and her husband and the raptors that she helps rehabilitate, like all that. Like she's got all these great hobbies and other parts of her life that she gets to put time into now, which is really such a cool thing. So anyway,
and she likes to joke. She likes to joke that she did not follow my instructions to the T, even though every time she did, it worked out.
Right.
It worked out better. So
that's funny.
Yeah, she's been there, done that, implemented all the things, and helps our students do that too. So she'll be talking next week, same place, same time.
Yes.
Some really good, insightful questions.
Very cool.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brian, for joining me today. It was fun. I had a really good conversation. It was nice to have somebody like really prompt me on what to chat about because makes it.
I had a blast too, and you've got so much amazing knowledge, and that you've helped so many people. And I know that you don't have to be here, so I really appreciate you taking the time. And I know you haven't been feeling 100%, but you powered through and really gave our students and our clients a great bunch of knowledge today. So I really appreciate that. That's awesome.
Awesome. Great. All right. If any questions come up while you're watching the replay, definitely let us know. We'll either answer them or make note of them for a future live to answer. And make sure to tune in next week. Make sure to check out the blog post and make sure to download the worksheet for this all access August. All righty. I'll let you guys go. See you next week.
Bye, everybody. Bye, Ines.
Bye.